Are you expecting Dan Bicknell to be here tonight? I didn't see him.
I asked him, but I haven't heard back.
I read his letter.
You mean his email?
Yeah.
Yeah, I answered the latest one, but I didn't bother to forward it to the larger group. I just forwarded my response to card admin because I think those back and forths like that are unproductive for the larger group, and it might, in fact, hurt the cause of getting EPA in to do a protective, effective, community acceptable cleanup and restore the aquifer. So that was my decision to give him a quick response, and hopefully we can keep the side chatter about how much due diligence is needed on the side. You know, I'm still advocating for the best possible cleanup, and to rely on solely on you know, available information that the company wants to share with us, I think is questionable. Anyway, looks like there's a couple more people coming in. Why don't we go ahead and get started? Welcome to the February 1st, 2022 card meeting, the first one of 2022, because we skipped January. There was too close to the New Year's and not much was happening over the last month. So in that December month, but now we'll catch up. So I'm Roger Rail. I'm chair of CARD and chair of Scio Residents for Safe Water. Just to let everybody know, this meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the CARD YouTube channel afterward. And of course, by doing that, within a few hours, there's a transcript that goes along with it. And of course, our excellent secretary, Beth Collins, will be doing a summary of the minutes for the approval at the next card meeting. So I'm going to share my screen and bring up the meeting agenda for today. So bear with me here. Share screen. And that'll be screen 2. Just want to make sure everybody sees the agenda screen. People see that all right?
Yeah, looks good.
Thumbs up on the screen.
Yeah.
James, you have your, oh.
I do. I'm waiting for with respect to agenda item 2.
Okay. So
Yes.
Beth, you want to take over and do?
Sure.
By the way, before I turn it over to Beth, as if you come on and want to ask a question or something, for the new people on screen, it would be appropriate for you to introduce yourself the first time you're on screen, and that way it makes sure that that Beth does the knows exactly who's talking. Sometimes the video doesn't switch fast enough, so that's my introduction. So Beth, you want to take over with item 2?
Yes. The next item is the approval of the December minutes. Did you have a question or comment first, James?
Yes, I do. I'm seeing edits in green in terms of the item on the Google Docs. I assume I have no problem with the edits. I just want to make sure what the status is on those. Who made those particular? Was those yours or other participants?
Those are Roger's, just additions mostly, making my sentences complete maybe for me or clearer thoughts. So I just like from the day that I send them out now to the night that we approve them, if there's any additions or changes, they'll be in that bright green.
Okay, thank you.
And It's just a few word things, but Kathy, did you have a question too?
Yeah, just for clarification, I thought that Jack Eaton was going to be running these meetings this year.
I think he does once we get through this minutes. And
Oh, okay. I just wanted to make sure no one had withdrawn.
no, oh no.
Once you're in, you can't get out.
We got no Tom Brady's here.
Yeah, no. So this is a board vote for approval of the December minutes. And I just started putting them in the agenda so everyone can read them if they want to. And does anyone have any comments about the minutes or changes or anything? Okay. Then for the board, do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Beth. Appreciate it.
Okay, Jack, you want to take over?
Sure. I want to thank Kathy for looking out for me. We had previously discussed allowing Diane to speak first in case she didn't want to stick around for the whole meeting. So we're going to skip to item 3D, Superfund designation site update. Diane, if you have anything to report to us, we'd love to hear from you.
Hi, well, thank you. I'm certainly willing to stick through your meeting if you wanted me to, but for those of you who may not have met me before, I'm EPA's Community Involvement Coordinator. I'm out of Flint, Michigan, and I'm working with the team that's working on NPL site designation and you know, that kind of behind the scenes work.
The tracks and things and stuff.
Sorry, as a point of contact for the community as we're kind of going through this process, as I'm sure you guys have heard, can take quite a while. I am happy to, you know, I know you guys have these meetings quite frequently, and where we, as I mentioned before, the last time I stopped in, if we had any updates to provide, certainly are willing to do that with this group from time to time. It's just not going to be often. So as of on our website, and we try to post anything that goes on or any updates there as well. The last update that is on there, it was from November, where we talked about a selection of a contractor to do the site assessment work. And there's supposed to be a new update that has not been posted yet, which is the update I would be giving you this evening. Yeah, that's there it is. So yeah, the last update is from November. So we'll hopefully tomorrow this will refresh and we'll have a February 2022 update with the following information that I was able to get from the NPL listing team. So as of now, Weston has reviewed the site background information from EGLE and the county and municipalities, and had prepared a preliminary sampling approach. That preliminary sampling approach was presented on the 11th of January, this last month, to EPA and EGLE. And I think they're planning on providing some feedback comments if they hadn't already in that meeting. And so EPA or Weston is preparing a site-specific sampling plan based on that information. Now, sampling will be limited because it's intended to meet the needs of the site assessment process, but sampling will consist of soil, sediments, and groundwater samples. And this is really, again, to exclusively support the HRS evaluation score. So that's the score that they use to determine whether or not this would qualify as a national priority list site. And they're also going through this process using our own labs. I know there's been a lot of data that's been collected for this site. And, EPA is collecting more data, but it's a process that we use specific to the evaluation process and confirming information using our own labs. So that's kind of how why they follow that process. They expect, given all, timing of reports and approvals, that the sampling will take place in the spring. They're anticipating mid-May for that. Again, any updates, we're going to post this update on our website, and we'll check back in if there's any any updates to provide to community and going forward.
So first, I want to thank you for attending, and I appreciate all the work that you guys do. And you're always welcome to come, even if you don't have anything to say. Merely not having any update to provide us doesn't mean that we wouldn't welcome you.
I appreciate that, absolutely. As a community involvement coordinator who actually participates in 5 community advisory groups around Michigan, I completely value the presence and the dialogue that we're able to have by sharing space. So, where I can make that happen, and also provide opportunities for any of our staff as available to come, I certainly encourage that in any site that I'm assigned to. So thank you for letting me stop in today and provide an update that we have.
So I have a couple raised hands. I think they have questions for you. Go ahead, Kathy.
I will do my best.
Okay, when you do the site-specific sampling, will you be trying to determine the boundaries of the plume, number 1, and number 2, given that we've found low levels of 1,4-dioxane in West Park, will your sampling include West Park?
I'm just writing this down, and to your first question, I want to make sure that because I was talking to the team about this earlier. So it's important to know that this sampling activity is really meant to provide information for the scoring activity and not a nature and extent activity. Those types of sampling events are specific to when we have to do a design or develop a cleanup plan. So this is specific to just the scoring activity. On your, I'm not sure about the West Park area, if that's included. I'd have to go back to the team and ask them to expand upon those areas. But like I said, it is limited. The sampling locations are really meant to provide very specific information under the scoring activity.
Oh, okay. And to follow up, so these samples are really just to determine the concentration level of 1,4-dioxane rather than the extent of it in the community. Would that be correct to say?
I mean, I that's my, I would say that is fairly accurate. But as far as the details of what the specifics of the site assessment program, they're very key in underscoring that they don't typically share the sampling plan or sample locations prior to that sampling. I'd have to ask our scoring team further information about, what kind of information specific are they looking for that helps them with the hazard scoring.
Oh, okay, thanks. And I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was more curious and I'm still learning about this. So thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, Vince, go ahead.
Thanks, Jack. I guess I have a comment about, and maybe a question about the fact that Scio Township took it upon itself to do some well tests, drinking water well tests, and found 1 part per billion and slightly less in several wells, which is a very big issue for that part of the community because they're on well water. Is EPA aware of that? Is that something that's been discussed at all. It's a big issue, I would say, for the community. Thanks.
Yeah, and last I had heard, I think there was some correspondence with Debbie Dingle and our staff on this issue.
Our office has absolutely talked to the EPA about that, and I know really regularly has communicated that with EPA. So they are well aware of this, but we're always in communication and happy to share even more of that information with them.
Yeah, and the last I knew, I think EPA was working to respond to a letter about specifically what involvement or program this would involve, which I don't think, I think again, EPA is involved in the process of scoring right now, and the primacy agency for this this cleanup is EGLE.
Right.
So where we're involved is really where we're doing our work right now.
I'm glad that you're aware of it, and Congresswoman Dingle has communicated to you. She's had some pretty strong comments about it. So appreciate it. Appreciate your time on that. Thanks.
So I want to point out that we're going to give Katie a chance to give us any update she has after we're done with this round of questions. So somebody remind me of that if I forget. Go ahead, Kathy.
I wanted to remind Diane, I'm not sure you were aware, but when the testing was done in Scio Township, the 522 method was used as opposed to the current method used by the county and EGLE. So some of the detections were below 1 part per billion. One of the detections was north of what was thought to be the edge of the plume. It was a significant distance north. So we were very surprised to see this. Also, I wanted to invite you to a February 17th town hall meeting that will be held at Scio Township. It will be by Zoom, and it is to present the findings of the residential well sampling, to describe the future well sampling plan that is currently underway, and to answer questions from residents. So it will be by Zoom, and some people will be there in person, but you are invited to attend if you would like, and you can attend by Zoom.
Thank you. I'm going to share those details of the information. If the links and things, are they on Scio Township's website?
They were to go up today, the Zoom link. I don't know if it did.
Yeah, kind of my issue too with my website.
But they will be up there certainly by next week.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and once they're up, I'm going to post a link on srsw.org.
Okay.
But I imagine we also have Diane's email address somewhere, don't we?
Yes, I have it.
Okay. We might want to email that invitation to her as well. Go ahead, Glenn.
I noticed, Diane, you said soil sediment and groundwater sampling to support the HRS ranking. Was surface water sampling considered, or should it be? And also indoor air, I would have the same question, since those could be major exposure routes.
Don't know, and I can follow up and see if I'm assuming that this is what it was limited to, but if there are further samples planned that include surface water or indoor air, I will communicate that back.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, regarding the soil sampling, I'd be very interested in, I know that you said you don't actually reveal where the soil sampling locations are going to be, but I would urge the consultant to review where the prior soil sampling locations were back in 1988 and 98, where we had 2 million and 1 million parts per billion in the soils, and haven't had a complete soil sample in that area since. So we're talking about these areas here.
Is this on the,
And
I'm just trying to see your map here. This is on the Gelman property?
this on the Gelman property. Well, some of it is on the former Gelman property that was split off. And in the baseline environmental analysis for the split, these locations were not evaluated.
Oh.
So I would urge that the consultant focus on where the large concentrations were, and mostly here around the burn pit area, where we know there's been some activity here. You can actually see the wellhead, these little dots here that weren't there a few years ago. Something's been going on there and we can't find out what it is, but there's locations here that should be evaluated as part of the soil sample round. And of course that extends through the whole site too.
Yeah.
All the way down to the other parts of this.
Yeah, and as part of the sampling, the contractor will be getting access agreements and hopes and intends to sample on site on the Gelman property if possible. So they'll be contacting Gelman when they're ready, and appreciate cooperation to get on site access.
You think that's going to be a problem getting access from Gelman on their own property?
I'm not sure, but it certainly is going to be important to getting information for the scoring. So
yeah,
I know Weston will be
if you're
get access to collect samples on property and also other areas around there, and contacting those owners for that access.
Yeah, so these areas, I have all the data I could find on these, and it's not just in one place. So if they having trouble finding these locations, have them give me a buzz and I will feed them the information. You know, it should be in, some of it is actually in the preliminary analysis that the EPA did, but there's others that should be considered. That's all. Thanks.
With that, I'm going to
stick around for the whole meeting.
Yep. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Katie, Congresswoman Dingell's staff member, and she can let us know what the Congresswoman's been up to.
Yeah, so, you know, obviously, I think we got a great update here from Diane. I don't have a ton to add to this. Mrs. Dingell is having meetings with the EPA. I know she's reaching out to EGLE as well, just to make sure and continue to make sure that everyone's on the same page with this. I think I've had a few conversations with some of you individually about just continuing to make sure we're on track with this project. And so if there's anything that you need to get to her about this, feel free to reach out to me and we can keep talking to her about it. I know, I think Diane has probably heard, if she hasn't heard from her directly already, that's in the cards always, but Debbie is continuing to stay on top of this and, you know, just wants to make sure that this makes progress. And I know she was really excited to hear that this testing and the preliminary testing is moving forward. So I think Roger said that I am in the process of transitioning out of Mrs. Dingell's office, which is something that I'm sad about, but I'm staying on this project until somebody replaces me. If you have any suggestions, send them my way. And, you know, once Team Dingell, always Team Dingell. So we're going to keep this ship afloat in the meantime.
Well, I want to thank you on behalf of all of us for all of the work that you've done communicating with us about what our Congresswoman is up to, and especially want to thank her. So absolutely. We'll miss you a lot. Go ahead, Kathy.
I just want to mention that the Congresswoman addressed the Ann Arbor Ypsilanti Chamber of Commerce yesterday. and mentioned that the Gelman plume was one of her priorities, and just basically said the same thing that Katie has said just now. But it's definitely one of her top priorities. So it's wonderful that she's out there talking to business leaders about it. So thank you.
All righty then. With that, we're going to resume the following the agenda. So we're on item 3A. Dan, would you like to
Let me pull it
Sure.
back up here.
address this?
I didn't hear. Was there a comment or question? Someone said something. Or was I just, okay, I'll go on. We're in the first bullet of first item A is removal of confidentiality agreement, basically getting data. We have, as I stated at the last meeting in December, we were planning on sending out formal request for information letters that are under Part 201, 201-17-1. And those letters were sent out on December 2nd. Those letters are posted if you want to see them. I got them eventually posted on the Gelman our Gelman webpage under selected documents. And basically, 2 letters were sent out to the contact for Gelman, and then the contact for Donaher, the legal team or legal representative of Donaher. And so those we have in those letters, we asked for specific information, and we asked for a response back within 30 days. So they are out of compliance. They're in violation right now. We have not heard anything specific back. And so what is currently being planned is the next step for letters, a violation notice, basically notice a violation and identification that, to fulfill the request as allowed under Part 201 for information, or we would consider taking it to escalated enforcement. So we will be getting our compliance and enforcement people. In fact, we'll be meeting very soon to do that next step. I will keep you updated when that next letter, let's say, is sent out, but the plan is very soon, because they are, in violation as the formal letters identify.
So thank you.
Yep.
I note that Josh is also attributed to this item, but I don't see him on our list of participants.
No, he's not on tonight.
Okay.
Basically, he mainly comes during the quarterly meetings. He's well, now he's moved back to, although he's on Gelman, he was the acting director for RRD, and now he's back to his assistant director because the director has come back off of, he was on extended leave, for personal reasons. So he's back in the office. So Josh is still the point contact in management, EGLE management, RRD management. So he will be attending the quarterly meeting next month.
Okay. With that, we can move on to item B, which also designates that EGLE will speak on this, and I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I don't know if Evan Pratt's on the line or not. Basically, just as an update, within a couple hours ago, we received, where we were is we had, there is a MS4 investigation work plan that was submitted by Gelman that was reviewed. It goes through Evan because he's the permit holder, the MS permit holder, Washtenaw County Water Resources Commissioner or Water Resources Commission. And that work plan that was submitted last year in the fall was reviewed by Washtenaw County and Water Resource Division of EGLE. I also was involved with that review, and we sent comments were given back to them in a letter. Evan sent a letter back, review letter back to Gelman, and included a letter from EGLE with our comments. And we have been waiting for a work plan or revised work plan. We have just received that within the last couple of hours. It was sent to Evan, it was sent to EGLE. So we, will start the evaluation of that work plan, soon, related to the comments that, that we sent to them from their original work plan review.
Okay, thank you on that. And I don't see Evan Pratt or Dan Bicknell here. So there's a note here about the Environmental Commission. Is anybody prepared to speak on that? If not, we can move on to the next item. Patty, do you have anything to report to us?
Don't have any updates on the basement testing, but I do have updates on the Sentinel monitoring well, which I can hold for later if you choose, or I can talk about it now.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay. I was planning to have a schedule together for tonight, but I have been on calls all day, so my apologies. I can route that through Beth. If you all recall, we did some modeling about a year ago, came up with some potential locations for Sentinel monitoring wells for that north side of the Prohibition Zone, targeting primarily Miller and Maple roads initially. That work is moving forward. It was put into, the planning costs. Drilling will actually occur the start of the new fiscal year, so July. So we'll be working on some public engagement to talk about what exactly we're doing, as well as putting out an invitation to bid, reviewing contracts and getting a driller on board. So that work includes doing some aquifer analysis, testing, as well as some water level measurements. I'm going from memory here. Some water level measurements that we'll get in concert with Gelman's collection of water level measurements. We can try to tie the data together. So more to come on that.
Okay. So when you say the funding will be in the next fiscal year, this is being funded by the city?
Correct, yes.
And their fiscal year starts July 1st?
Yes, yep. Thank you.
Go ahead, Vince.
Patty, I just wanted to ask if you are involving anybody in the CARD group about where you would do testing or where sampling would happen. My impression that a lot of these tests that we've been having done for the community haven't been very effective because they don't really interact with the CARD group, who have a lot of knowledge, a lot of expertise. And I would hope that the county and the city and townships would take advantage of that. Thanks.
So the testing was based on the modeling and the potential for where 1,4-dioxane could potentially be going to the north if there is a pathway. So it was all based on the science that we took a look at. And if you remember, I had a map the last time I did a presentation on it that sort of had a couple of circles about where we were targeting first, second, third, fourth, if necessary, for these Sentinel monitoring wells. So that area has already been identified. That was already shared.
So you don't think CARD has any expertise to provide the research?
I didn't say that, Vince. It was completely based on the modeling that we did. And, we had public engagement prior to that.
Okay. You do recall that was more than a year ago that we initiated that at City.
Yep.
City.
Yep.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
Yep.
We've already covered
that might be one of the layers that I'm trying to load here, but it's basically looking at these pathways that might go straight to Barton Pond. And I think those were mostly east of Maple. Is that correct?
Yes. And basically, I can just quickly summarize. There's basically what looks like a channel potentially underground where the water could be shunting through if there is a pathway right outside that prohibition zone. So the work is very much intended to be protective of the drinking water source. So like a sentinel well, meaning it would be our canary in the coal mine kind of review. So there will be some public engagement, and Vince, to your point, though, we'll be able to have some comments when I get some information together about what exactly we're looking at. But we've already got a targeted area based on the previous work.
Alrighty then. So then moving on, we've already covered D. We're gonna cover the intervenor update. Is Kathy Knol on the line here?
Yes, I'm here. We do not have a date for oral arguments yet for the Court of Appeals. I checked today. We have all of the briefs have been filed. So we're just waiting for a date.
Alrighty.
Thank you.
So, do you know whether those briefs are publicly available?
Yes, they are.
Okay. I cannot remember whether you sent them to me. I'm embarrassed by that, but okay, thank you so much. So then the next item is about the homeowner wells. Do you want to talk about that now?
I think I was just going to give an update on our upcoming town hall at Scio Township. We've been working on a program with EGLE and the County Health Department and Keith Gadway, our environmental consultant. There will be a brief presentation, approximately 3 minutes to 5 minutes by each panel member, and the rest of the meeting will be devoted to questions from residents. So we've been planning. The information is out there now. MLive is going to post something. I've talked to the reporter, and we'll see how it goes.
Ready? Thank you.
A follow-up on that. Are the areas that are they're gonna be more sample locations like these little blue dots?
Yes.
Are they gonna be outside of this map area that I'm showing here?
It's a broader area. I believe some of it is outside of this map, but I can't compare the map that I have with your map. So we'll
Is
have
that
to
a map
look
you can
at it.
share?
Pardon?
Is there a map you can send to me that it's public?
Not yet.
Well, okay. But before the 17th?
I think so.
Okay,
I think
appreciate that.
Yes.
Thanks.
There's a bullet point here about the EPA, but I think that Diane already covered that. And so I'm going to move on to item G.
Jack,
Yes.
can I back up just real quick and have Rita Mitchell mention what the Environmental Commission discussed a week ago?
Absolutely.
Is that okay? Thank you for the MS4 thing.
Okay.
Thanks, Rita.
Hi, I'm sorry that I missed that earlier report period, but I just wanted to say the Environmental Commission did talk about the infiltration of 1,4-dioxane in the Allen Creek drain as an MS4 violation. The violation was issued by Evan Pratt about a year ago. The work plan was considered deficient. It remains deficient. I'm glad to hear that that Dan reported that the plan has arrived, and I'll be really interested in hearing the outcome of that and the assessment of how it's going. The point of concern for the Environmental Commission is just that there's still has been an outstanding lack of agreement on the standard for triggering treatment. There was a mention in that work plan, first work plan, of a water quality standard of 280 parts per billion versus the background level of 0. So that's going to be something to look at carefully, and that's where we are for right now. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Go ahead, Kathy.
Yes, I'm the council liaison to the Environmental Commission. I want to thank Rita for all of that information and for being able to retain all those technical details. We were prepared to bring forward a resolution for council to then pass a resolution regarding this MS4 permit violation. And I think that we put that on hold temporarily, at least. I think that Evan Pratt and Dan Bicknell both presented at the Environmental Commission. And it was very helpful because many of the commissioners don't understand all of the complexities of the dioxane plume. And Evan Pratt offered to have a meeting with the two council liaisons as well as some of the legal staff to discuss this further. However, we wanted to wait until we got this report from Gelman. And also Dan Bicknell had agreed to write up in detail exactly what the differences are between the EPA and EGLE regarding the MS4 permit. So we should have that information in the next couple of days also. So I would say it was a productive meeting, and I think that by having it on the agenda for the Environmental Commission, it probably moved things along. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I want to note that, Evan Pratt kind of has the authority to enforce the MS4 permit. So I think that we should be urging some county commissioners to offer him support, whether it be funding for an attorney to assist him in the enforcement effort or whatever it be. But I don't see any county commissioners on the participant list tonight. Otherwise, I would call on them and ask them what they thought about that. But if anybody has a good, warm relationship with our county commissioners, feel free to touch base with them and ask them if there isn't something they could do to maybe pass a resolution in support of anything that Evan wants to do, offer to fund whatever legal work might be necessary to push this a little harder. But I too am encouraged by the fact that there's a revised work plan, and let's see if this one's better. Now moving along to item G. Roger or Kathy, do you have anything to say about the community well update?
I'd like to make a comment about the last item in item F, where EGLE should be using method 522 for its sampling. I think there's been a lot of discussion amongst the card members and Scio Township residents that really the EGLE should be moving to the 522 method for sampling. And Dan Bicknell has written up a pretty good description of the options. And if EGLE can't do the 522 testing because they don't have it available in their lab, as Dan Bicknell suggested, they could go out of the lab and have Gelman pay for it in an independent lab. We're looking at homes that are 1 part per billion or close to that in Scio Township with, in their drinking water wells. And it's a major concern, I think, that we have, that, you have infants getting bottled water, formula from the sinks. And I think there's a lot of concern about children and young kids getting exposed. EPA talks about 0.35 part per billion, 1 in a million exposure being of concern. So I think that's something the card group has discussed here recently. I think we want to encourage EGLE to move to the 522 so we have a better handle on where this plume is, how close it is to wells, which wells are being contaminated, so that the homeowners have the ability to make a decision with facts and knowledge and not guesswork. And I think we have the technology, we have the polluter who has the money, Danaher, to help pay for this. I think we would urge EGLE to make that decision and move on it.
Thank you, Vince. I want to note that I'm looking for the visible hand and people's identity there before I move on. When I don't see anybody, I do move on from item to item. I don't mean to rush in any discussion. But to follow up on what Vince said, Patti, is the monitoring wells that the city's going to finance, are they going to use 522 testing method?
Yes, yes. The
That's
city
up.
always uses 522 when they sample for 1,4-dioxane.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Mhm.
So seeing no other hands, I'm going to move on to item 3G now. Go ahead, Roger. Or Kathy.
Okay, I can give a brief overview and then Roger can chime in. We've discussed this issue previously at CARD. There is currently a development proposal pending in front of the Scio Township Planning Commission. It would involve a community well and a community wastewater treatment system. It's very close to the Gelman plume, or what is thought to be the perimeter of the plume. The Planning Commission had a preliminary site plan review, and the vote was 3-3. So this has been tabled now. The developer is attempting to see if they can do anything to make this work in Scio Township. There have been a series of meetings. I don't know where everything stands right now, but Roger, maybe you could summarize the concerns with a community well in particular in this location.
Yeah, I don't have the map overlay readily available here, but it basically, you can see it in this lighter area here is basically the this area here is the Knights of Columbus site. It pretty much goes down to the right of way for the I-94. This area here would be the development for the housing, and to the left of that, to the west of that, there would be a community well. And the concern was that a community well that large should have a groundwater wellhead protection area. There's some, let's see where there. So if I turn off this map now.
Roger, can you explain what that means?
Yeah, just as soon as I bring up this, so you can see what's beneath this map here. So here, for instance, is a wellhead protection, provisional wellhead protection area for a daycare center here and another one over here. And as you can see, they extend back to the Gelman plume area. Well, if they're the provisional wellhead protection area for this community supply well here would probably extend back into even maybe the red area of the Gelman plume. So there's potential for that dioxin to be pulled even more so to the north. We already seen on the soils sampling that there's a home here that had detectable levels of dioxin. So we already know that it's heading that way. Community well in this area drawing that much water could potentially draw even more dioxin in that direction. And of course, there are dozens of homeowner wells in that area. Even if there's a treatment system for the supply well for this proposed community, there wouldn't be water available for these homeowners that are homeowner wells that are next door and across the road that could be affected. So before anything more happens on that, somebody better evaluate the provisional wellhead protection area for that area. So to give you an idea how many wells we're talking about that many that already, these are existing wells. And this is the one that was contaminated already. So, and of course you got the 2 or 3 or 4 of them here on Elizabeth that have already been contaminated. So you know, before doing anything here and putting in new wells, there better be very rigorous evaluation of what effect that's going to have on the site. That's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead, James.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do have just some questions. And Kathy, I've asked you this before. We've talked about this petition. So it's tabled. Was it tabled to a date certain?
No.
Okay. And so could you, as best as you can, you or Roger, what did the planning commission ask for the developer to do? Reduce footprint? Do you have an idea what they asked for? You could talk about here.
They wanted more specific hydrogeologic studies done so that there could be an evaluation of the potential impact that the community well might have on surrounding wells. There was also discussion among some of the planning commission members about the consideration of a conditional approval. And the developer was kind of pushing in that direction. But where specific criteria would be included in the planning commission resolution that would have to be met, and their approval would be conditioned on meeting those. But nothing was stated specifically. That is a concept that was discussed, though.
Okay. All right. Thanks for this. I'll probably have some further questions on this down the road, but Kathy, thank you for this.
Kathy, can you tell us if any of the new proposed sampling locations are in this area here?
Oh, Roger, I don't have that map
For the,
in front of me here. So we have identified tentative sites in a broader area, further north and further west. But to compare what I'm seeing here, I can't do it because I don't have the other map, and we're gonna have to do it in person, or I'm gonna have to send the other map to you. The scales are different and I can't tell.
Okay. We can post something once we know
Okay.
it. So, and it'll be there in the, refer to it in the minutes if necessary. Thanks.
Anything else on item G? Seeing no hands, I'm going to turn it over to Dan to give us the EGLE updates.
Number 4, the first one is related to implementation of the court-ordered or the consent judgment order. Roger, if I can share the screen, I have a map that would be very helpful, I think, in kind of me going through.
Okay.
That is that something?
Let me make you a
done.
co-host so you can share your screen. Hold on.
Yeah, I haven't done it through Zoom, so we may have a problem, but I can talk it through.
Do you have, first of all, bring your map up in another window. And then when you do the share, you will switch to that window. So I'm going to stop my share.
Okay.
Find the button here. And then I'm going to make you a co-host.
Okay, I have it up on another one, but I have to.
I'm going to make you a co-host and I'll let you share the screen.
Okay. So I have to hit the share screen green arrow, right?
Yeah, hit the button that says share screen, and then you look at the images that are there and pick the one that looks like the one you want to share.
Yep. Tell me when you can see the map.
It's coming up. There it is.
Okay. This is a map from the CJ order. It's the 4th amended CJ order. This is one of the appendices that's in that CJ, the map from one of the appendices, specifically Appendix G. We've just taken it and utilized it to show progress on what is required under that CJ order. Basically, and can you, is my cursor moving for you guys?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. The CJ order has several areas. It has a western area activities. It has an eastern area within the prohibition zone activities. It has an on-site component in this area of activities required under that CJ order. As you can see here, Gelman has started installing monitoring wells that are required from the CJ order in the western area. These yellow dots, yellow circles are where they have installed monitoring wells. Basically in the CJ order, these areas where were identified as locations, like over here, location C, B. Well, these were also identified as locations. In fact, they're on there, location M, location N. So Gelman has gone to these locations that I've shown, that I'm kind of scrolling around, and has installed a test boring, did vertically profiling, and then installed a specific number of monitoring wells, monitoring well cluster, anywhere from 1 to 3 monitoring wells based upon conditions, vertical profile conditions and geologic conditions encountered. So as you can see, they've installed the required monitoring wells at starting with MW 142 was the first well that was installed. It's 2-well cluster. 143 is a 3-well cluster here along Park here. Then 144 is a 3-well cluster just on South Wagner here. And then the last one that they've installed is one, well, then they moved up to the intersection of Dexter and Honey Creek. And so they installed a 3-well cluster up there. And then the last well that was installed a week or 2 ago was this a monitoring well here. This is a single monitoring well. It was written up that way in the CJ order. So it is they installed that monitoring well. Again, at each one of these locations, they did vertically profiling, a test boring, and then did vertically profiling. And then at each location, they talk with us before installation of any of the monitoring wells. That's how we've set it up, is they have a phone call with us to discuss what they found and to discuss their proposed monitoring well clusters, the vertical location. And so we know about them before they, install, just go out and install. The remaining ones are areas that different planning stages. They are still finalizing access down in location E here. That's near the Montgomery well. They have the church that is near that area. They're finalizing access agreement with that church. That's where I believe, that's where they think they'll be moving next. And then these 2 locations, they are working with getting access agreements with the property owners. They're in different stages of those access agreements. It's going slower, which as we've discussed at the beginning, access agreements, you can never tell how fast, how slow things may be, but they are pursuing these access agreements. As soon as they have those in place, then they will be putting the required test boring and then vertically profile and then monitoring wells at these locations. In it, as far as work in the eastern area, which is within the prohibition zone here, they have done in what is identified as the Rose Well remediation area. They've done test borings along Valley Drive, 3 test borings. So they have done test borings down to bedrock and have gathered the hydraulic and analytical information there. And we'll be evaluating that information, or currently evaluating that information, to identify a final location for the Rose well, for Rose extraction well, which is mentioned specifically in the CJ order. And so it'll be somewhere in this general location of what is identified as the Rose well remediation area. They are also pursuing access with a city right of way, like a overall right-of-way access agreement. I'm not using the right term, but they're working with the city and are trying to get most of these done in right-of-ways. So they are in that stage of gathering right-of-way access with the city of Ann Arbor. This last, the Park Lake well area is the one location that's still in the CJ order that has has a portable treatment system, and this is where the discharge is in the First Sister Lake. Again, that is still in the order, which they have to comply with. The first step of this will be submittal of a NPDES permit to EGLE to review in relationship to the discharge into First Sister Lake. If that permit is not approved, then they are not required to install an extraction well in this location. So that, as far as I know, that permit application has not been submitted yet. Again, it's in the order. They have identified that they are working on that, and I would anticipate that that is submitted sometime in the early part of 2022. Just realize it has to go through the NPDES review process at EGLE. And if you remember, that review process does include the stakeholder input. There'll be, I'm sure, a meeting and that type of thing, but it goes through that normal NPDES permit process. It's not going to be a quick turnaround thing. But that's the first step before they would even do an extraction well to even discharge into First Sister Lake. So then these, like I said, they're getting access for these other ones in right-of-ways, and then the other component or area is on-site. This on-site property, and in there are three kind of response or treatment activities. They will be installing three additional shallow extraction wells. They have already installed one. It's identified in their records now and sampling as TW24. That's installed and up and running, or periodically they pump that and do the and put it through their treatment system. That's in the records that we get the monthly records. The other two locations are identified in the CJ order in a map, and they have done the test borings for those. I don't have any specific information yet about those test borings, but they have completed those activities here at the end of this last year, the test borings for that. They will eventually, after evaluation, and they will eventually put those other shallow extraction wells, 2 more, for a total of 3. And they are identified in the CJ order as phase 1 extraction wells on the property, on site. Let's see, so that, as far as drilling and installation, that's what they have done, with implementing the CJ order. Other items in the CJ order, there is a requirement near Third Sister, do a Western area GSI groundwater surface water interface investigation for potential GSI problems or venting of groundwater to surface waters in the Western area. They submitted a work plan
Hey, Dan,
back.
Dan?
Yes.
Excuse
Yeah.
me, Dan.
Yeah. Oh, I start
You
talking,
might
I don't
wanna
see the hand.
Use your plus sign. No, that wasn't the reason. I can ask that question later, but I think it'd be useful if you could zoom in using the plus sign up there.
Can I?
When you
Okay.
talk about those specific areas near the core,
Okay.
keep zooming in until you feel that it has enough detail.
Has it done for you? Did it zoom in?
Keep going in, because you were kind of going in and around, and then you can pull.
Yeah, I start
sliding
talking,
bar
my
down.
eyes glaze over, and so
Yeah,
I'm
that's
sorry. So
better.
let's,
Yeah.
if you have questions, let me see if we can.
That's probably good enough, because you were talking
Okay.
about the tributary, and you're talking about Third
Well,
Sister
yes.
Lake.
So they have already submitted to us what was identified as a Western Area GSI work plan in August 2021. That work plan is posted on our webpage under selected documents. So they part of the CJ order saying they have to do an evaluation of potential GIS, no, not GSI. I'm sorry, we have two acronyms that, and I'm not an acronym guy, so groundwater surface water interface requirement. And so they've submitted that work plan. We gave them we evaluated that work plan, including what we have an internal group for GSI, the TAPS team. It's an internal technical group. They even reviewed that work plan. We gave comments back, and they have submitted a revised GSI work plan last Thursday. I got that work plan last Thursday. So we are starting the evaluation of that revised work plan. And we just got it, so we'll start evaluating that revised work plan. Again, that's a component of the CJ order. They are required to do that. Then there is another component. Let me go out a little bit here from, go back to where we were of more of the prohibition zone. Okay, another component of the CJ order is the prohibition expansion. You know, if you remember, the order allowed a prohibition expansion in this area in the north and in this area in the south. So part of that, they have to basically go in and make sure there's no water supply wells or wells that can be used as water supply wells in those areas. So they are compiling what is a well prohibition expansion well ID report. We have agreed to have a submittal date of March 31st. So I'm anticipating that report on or before March 34th. And again, March 31st. And again, that's a requirement under the CJ order. And so they will give us that information of what their search included and what they found out. They are working with the city and the county to get well records, and they are also sending out letters, questionnaire letters to specific properties. So there's several ways they gather information to fulfill that requirement. Another component in the CJ order is a financial assurance mechanism, a FAM, basically, and where Gelman has to basically set aside a certain amount of money related to running this site, allowing the state to run the site if Gelman suddenly goes out of the picture. There is a financial assurance mechanism that is already in place related to the third amended CJ, and that third amended CJ financial assurance mechanism is approximately 29 million. It's plus or minus, I forget the exact number. So it's in place now. The new one, they have basically had to calculate a new number related to all this new work that's going on and the current costs. And they've submitted that FAM to us as required in last October, I believe. And we reviewed that FAM and identified that we had some questions on it or did not totally agree with it, with their cost. Basically, we wanted some more contingency in there because of the unknowns, because of the length of the project and the unknowns. The FAM monies are calculated so that it assumes that this money will be running the project as it currently is in, with all the new requirements for 30 years, is to have the money available, set aside to run that project, for the state to run the project, do everything that is currently being done for 30 years. The current FAM estimated number is 47 million. And so we'll be working with them about contingencies with that. So once that is agreed to, then they will basically get, have to go to a bank and set aside that money. There's several different avenues that they can do it. But, in general, they'll set aside that money or have a guarantee of that money at a financial institution. And then that will be available if Gelman goes out of the picture, whatever doesn't do any more work, doesn't, goes bankrupt, whatever, that money is set aside for us to continue running the project. Let's see.
Dan, this is Mike Moran. I had, as you may recall, asked that we make some significant efforts to stop calling these things consent judgments. I know that sometimes when talking, we slip into that, but now you're taking documents that are labeled new well location CJ compliance. This is not good for the history of this event. This was what, a June 21 order, I think, wasn't it? June of 2021?
Yeah.
Yeah. If you could please just stop using CJ on
that's what's in the
call it June 21.
Well, it's called a consent judgment order. If you go to the records, that's what it's called. It's a fourth amended consent judgment order. So we call it the CJ order. So I know that there wasn't
the
an
court
agreement.
calls it the fourth consent judgment order.
Yeah,
And
yes.
none of the interveners have raised this issue that this is not a consent order.
I'm just, that is what the judge, when he, if you remember.
Okay, no, I understand. I can see the cause of confusion if that's
yeah,
what
so
the
we
court
just
has
kept
called
it with the
but
same.
We
with the
need
same
to do
nomenclature.
something to make sure that this is recorded historically as not a consent order. And I guess I'm saying this now with urgency to the interveners, please take some steps. And I would ask that EGLE go along with this and help us find what's a fair designation, because this isn't.
I'm just, that's why we have kept it the way we have in our nomenclature.
All right, I didn't know that. And
Yep.
I think we need to take some serious steps as we're going through this to eliminate that nomenclature. It's not accurate.
Point well taken. I'm going to take some questions at this time, Dan.
Yeah, please do. I'm at the end of the implementation summary. So please, can answer questions.
Go ahead, James.
Yeah, I share Mr. Moran's concerns, but my direct question related to, you mentioned, Dan, the MPDS permit at the Park Lake MPDS permit. Will there be a public hearing related to the permit prior to issuance?
That process, that NPDES process, is with our Water Resource Division, and that part of that process is a public, meeting. If there's enough, I believe, I don't know how it's worded in their program, but if there's enough requests or enough interest that way. So I believe, at this site, I believe that will be, yes, they will have a public, they will have public comment period, but I believe they will even have a public meeting to even have more discussion. I mean, that's my opinion, but that is Water Resources Program. I'm not up on exactly that program and exactly what.
Right, but we've requested already with you. I have formally and asked you to take it back to them and tell them that in this case, we want.
Yeah, we have already done that.
Okay.
Yeah, they know that we've already done that, not only in the
but you didn't say that
new permit.
So I got concerned.
Yeah, but no, we've done that already.
I thought you did.
Not only in this new NPDES permit, but in they're still renewing or evaluating the renewal of the existing permit for the existing treatment system. So if you remember, they were there when you guys say, hey, we want a meeting on this renewal update. So
yeah,
so 2 meetings, so they are aware that the concerns with both NPDES permits.
Thank you. Thank you, James.
I appreciate that information. I do understand there's that second level threshold if there is sufficient public interest. So
yeah,
thank you for this, and we look forward to having that information if anyone members from EGLE to share that with us if dates become available. So thank you.
So Dan, could you pass along to us the contact information for that division?
Yes, I can do that. I'll make a note to do that.
Thank you so much.
That
Go
as
ahead,
an action item.
Yep. Go ahead, Roger.
All right. When was the first of these wells or not wells, but borings and vertical profiling? When was the earliest date that was mentioned?
Well,
These
Roger, on the map here, if you could look, the dates are, you can get the dates real close. Drilling completed, K was the first one in October 26th.
Okay. So do you have the well log and the
No,
vertical
we don't.
profiling?
The CJA order doesn't require them to give us individual reports. What it
You
requires
mean
is
the
once,
court order. The court order doesn't require you to give that.
yeah, yes, okay.
Yeah, it
I'm
says
using the
feature.
court order. If, sorry, guys, it's, the court order doesn't require to give individual report. What it identifies is within 30 days of completing the activities on, for example, the western area, which that's this area here, and then the eastern area, they have to generate modify the sampling plan or generate a new sampling plan, and that's where and give us all the information related to the activities that went on there. So we have these meetings,
what
we
you're
have
saying is
verbal.
that-
We have verbal information
Yeah.
on the numbers. We may have a draft boring log just as to review the geology, but nothing finalized. So no, we don't have final information.
So you haven't seen these even.
What do
You
you
haven't
mean?
seen the data, the dioxane results from the vertical profiling on these.
No, what we've heard, in the meetings, we go through and identify the intervals, the sampling intervals, and that's part of the evaluation and discussion of where we're going to put wells.
Right, but you haven't seen any of the dioxane results for these.
You mean the analytical sheets? No.
You personally have not seen any dioxane results for these vertical profiling.
No, only verbally, that way.
Okay, so verbally, what's the highest dioxane concentrations for these?
Current,
new
up to date at the only location that has had a dioxane result in the range of 150 down to below 150 down to just above bedrock. That range has been 1 to 3 ppb. And that's the only location that have had vertical profiling positive results to the 1 ppb detection level. All the rest of these wells that have been installed, the test boring with the vertically profiling have been non-detect.
That's really what I was getting to.
Yep.
But it's troubling that they're withholding that information in those well logs.
Roger, they are
logs.
not withholding it. They talk to us about it. We utilize that information and understand that it's
withholding it.
Well, it's not a requirement until all the work is done. So
Well, that's what I'm getting to. They're
order.
withholding that until the whole western area is done.
Yes.
Or maybe the whole western and eastern area is done.
No, I mean, well, it's split off in the order, and both they have to do it related to the western area and the eastern area. That's
Okay.
in the order. You can look at the CJ order. I mean,
yeah, I just thought that they would do what they've done in the past and release those as they are done. Not
Okay.
wait till the end of the process.
Well,
anyway, that's all.
Let's be mindful of the clock here, and I'm going to call on Kathy.
Yes, I want to say I share Mike Moran's concern about calling it a CJ order. I believe that's what the judge labeled it. But I have a standing meeting with our city attorney on Friday at 9 o'clock. So if Mike or someone can give me information that I can convey to the lawyers about a request to change the title, and I believe that would have to go back to the judge, I would take that action item, because I mean, it's almost like it is an unsupported or unvoted for consent judgment. I mean, we didn't vote for it. And so I agree, it by calling it a CJ order, it implies that we approved it as a consent judgment, and then the judge just ordered that we follow it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But-
Kathy, I would
but-
just suggest June 1, 2021 order, or 6/1/21 order.
And again, there's basically two documents. There's the actual order, which is a couple pages, and that's what it's identified as. But then the attachment to that order has that whole fourth amended CJ, including all the written stuff and then all the appendices. And that's where I got this map. This base map was one of those appendices. So that's that's entitled the fourth amended CJ. So consent judgment. So that, so just realize that that's why we're doing what we're doing. At
Okay,
least currently.
yeah. Thanks, Dan. I was there on June 1st and I remember that. And
Yeah.
it didn't sit right at the time.
No,
but,
that's what he did. So
I know. All right. Thank you.
you're welcome.
So point well taken. It can't be a consent judgment because in fact, the polluter is fighting this order. So, but that is what the judge probably called it.
And I've started the process. I just, is one of those things I didn't do. I believe that's the actual order, a hard copy of that order and the appendices or attachments to that order. I'm putting it up on the webpage under legal documents. So there's the tab, there's the legal documents. So that'll be up here within a week or so, I think.
Thank you so much. Now, I noted that Glenn had his hand up for a while. Did you change your mind, Glenn?
Yes, I wanted to ask Dan about, it sounds like you coordinated with the people drilling the wells as they were being drilled and set the screen depths accordingly, but you don't have formal well logs. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I mean, they basically have been drilling. We have visited some of the drilling locations. We'll intend to visit some of these other ones in the eastern area as the process goes on. But after they get all the test boring done and get all their analysis out of their lab, it's their lab, their on-site lab there that they send it through, and they schedule a meeting with us. Prior to installing a well, they schedule meeting with us, and we discuss and evaluate and go through all the information they've collected at a location.
Right, but that's done without the benefit of formally reviewed well logs.
Right. Now, a lot of times we will have, they'll put up on, like we sharing this thing, they'll have some draft stuff, available to make it easier for our discussions. Where a partial well log or a not completed well log, but you'll be able to see the geologic material descriptions and stuff like that.
Sure, and there's time considerations as well, because you're got drillers out there and you need to decide. Okay,
absolutely.
Okay, before we move on to the next item on the agenda, I'll go ahead.
I have one quick observation that I want people on the screen to know. Notice location D down there in South Wagner. I want to make sure that people know that location D should not be confused with the existing location D well that's in the Saginaw Forest. They named them the same, but there is already
that well
D.
is now, those wells are now MW 144, Roger.
No, Dan, there's a location D in the Saginaw Forest.
I understand,
Already
but
a well.
I understand, but that well, if you're talking about the one on South,
been renamed to 144.
Yeah.
So in case somebody's looking for location D, don't get them confused. That's
okay. I'm sorry. I misunderstood you there, Roger. Yeah, the final name of those wells will be the MW 144 cluster. There'll be a MW 144 shallow, S, I, and D.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
I just didn't want it to be another MW92 fiasco.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I remember that.
All right, Dan, feel free to move on through the other items under number 4.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you need to change your screen? What you do?
Oh yeah, I can
share
stop.
if you're gonna.
I'm gonna stop.
Or you can stop sharing, and I'll bring up the.
Yeah, I'm gonna stop sharing, Roger. That's all. I don't have any other figures to assist me with the rest of that.
All right, I'm gonna share the agenda again. You should be seeing the agenda.
Yep, I see it. the B item, the summary report from TW24. That if you remember, the TW24 was one of the wells that were drilled in 2017. It was converted to TW24 under the order, but all we have is a boring log for that, and I believe I shared that with Beth and Roger, and we don't have any other additional information. That's one of the that area is one of the areas in the time frame that we've requested all the data and information related, you know, in those requests for information letters. So I don't have any new information of what exactly, other than the boring log, what other information they may have related to that test boring that was done, that was converted into TW24. They did the boring in 2017 and then converted it here in 2021. So they had this information. This is some of the information that stakeholders have been requesting. We have been requesting for on-site and started the official process under Part 201.
I see no questions on that matter, so let's move on to the next.
The results of the resampling. If you remember, we did some surface water sampling at about 23 or 24 locations back in November. The results of those came back that in Third Sister Lake, we had a significantly higher concentration than we've had historically. So, and then at West Park Pond, we had a positive detection, just under 1 ppb. And so we went back and sampled those two locations again in December. And what happened as I did, and I didn't post them exactly. That slipped. I did not post those. I posted the actual lab data sheets that are under recent analytical. You can go see the actual lab data sheets for both of those events, but it didn't get into our access database for the December issue, for, you know, that's on the webpage. It says through December. And so, but it's now in there, so that in the January, it'll show up with those sampling, the December sampling. Basically, the original Third Sister Lake was around 57 parts per billion that was detected in that surface water body, and the resampling, it's now at it was 9.6 parts per billion. Which is more in line with what historically that has been. The West Park.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The West Park Pond was the November sampling. Suddenly we got 0.98 parts per billion, just under 1. And then the resampling, we got 1.1. In December resampling, we got 1.1. So it still confirmed a positive detection in West Park Pond, which was the first time we've detected it in the years that we've been sampling West Park Pond. So that's, again, that has been, you know, it's in our access database. You can go see the actual lab data sheets under the recent analytical in 2000, you know, on the webpage for November and December. That'll show up. It was there. I just didn't get it into the access database before I posted the December access database. I think that was the last the bullet. I do want to say that if you want some additional information on what has gone on in this last quarter, you can, I posted, Gelman has to submit quarterly progress reports to us. Now they are very much related to the treatment system and then field activities, very brief bulleted type line items of what was done. So that the fourth quarter 2021 Gelman progress report is posted on our webpage, and that'll kind of go through what I've talked a little bit tonight, but there's no more detail. It's just very brief, but you can look at detail of how the treatment system's been going. You know, when they shut down a well for maintenance or this happened, that happened, they detail it in that report.
Well, thank you.
There is a question, couple hands, I think.
Oh, I'm sorry. I looked away. Go ahead, Vince.
Yeah, sorry, I had took a phone call from my son a minute ago. I just wanted to make a comment that, we've been asking EGLE to encourage or to ask or demand Gelman drill to bedrock because we have not collected that kind of data on, especially near the core. Is that happening? I don't know if you mentioned that already.
All the monitoring wells that are outside of the property have been drilled to bedrock.
How about on the
All
property?
anything monitoring wells within the property, that is not a part under the in the order. So that has, well, again, we have a lot of data. We have data that we don't have. So I
Yeah,
can't, but we don't have anything in hand of recent information going down to bedrock on the property.
Well, that's actually a very important piece of data we'd like to get. And I, would think EGLE could, make the case that this is critical information.
Well, Vince, to make that case, again, because we are in this process in the court, to make that case, we'd have to go to court to do that. And I will say that is my opinion, or the opinions we've been talking about internally. That would be, we have no other mechanism to force them to get us information. It would have to be through the court. And to date, we just have not done that. So I don't know what that will, in the future, I don't know with that, how far that will go. Again, we are moving on with that information request. So as we get new data and information, we have the right to, that even under the order, if we get information that shows gaps or identifies that, hey, additional data is needed related to the required investigation for the nature and extent of contamination related to the 7.2 criteria, then we do have that. But again, I would believe that that would, even with that authority to request that we would have to eventually, do a escalated enforcement to get that information.
Thank you, Vince. Being mindful that we're cutting into the card chairman's update time, I'll call on Roger now with his question.
Well, I was just going to ask what Vince asked about vertical sampling to bedrock at the core. So I'm led to believe that TW24 probably did not use vertical sampling down to bedrock. And in doing that, Gelman made EGLE a liar in their submittals to the court when they said that all wells since 2001 or something would be drilled to bedrock.
Roger, if you go back to the order,
I just want to.
It's not that way. That time frame, it was later than that time frame for the historically. We've said that we had wanted information, but there was nothing written or nothing under an order.
Well, even the current that part of it, but
even the current order doesn't say.
That's not what it says
that related to the on-site.
That's not what it says in. That's not what it says in EGLE's brief, expert brief to the court. It says, wells after a certain date, 2000, 2001, whatever, were drilled to bedrock. That's all I'm saying. Is that
I kind of went back and started looking at that when you brought it up before, and there was, if you want to say, a gap in there that I just my opinion that in that review was, there may have been a gap or requirement related to on-site. So, but
yeah, thank you.
We just don't have that information. Again, that's in the area where we're asking for all the information you gathered.
Well, I hope that gets resolved soon. All right, I'm going to switch back to the agenda if I can find.
So Vince, you have your hand up. You don't have another question, do you? Go ahead and lower that hand.
Okay, I thought they automatically got lowered. Sorry.
And we're going to turn this over to the chair for his update now.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot other than what I've already interjected. I'm looking for reports and things, some of which, as Dan said, just came in. So I'll be reviewing those and passing along any observations I make on those to the CARD core group. And looking for input from anybody else that wants to weigh in on these new reports that are coming in. Because it does take time to go through this, and if we have to wait for the information a long period of time, then it puts more pressure on to get that reviewed before the next CARD meeting. But that'll be my goal. As far as there's been some technical issues that came up that I'm thinking still about reviving the CARD technical meetings so that don't take time away from these monthly CARD meetings where there's side issues that could get resolved with having the certain technical people in a meeting to resolve it. I'll be working on that as they come up. Same with the subcommittee for the new CARD website. I had a list of volunteers who wanted to work on that, and at the end of last year, as we got near the holidays, that was not a good time period for everyone. And of course, with COVID and other things, stepping on schedules and things, I can understand that. So I want to get that revived here in the first quarter of this year to review what elements of the various websites that everybody has can be consolidated into a CARD website. And then maybe eventually that will become a source or a partner with the EPA website. I don't anticipate the EPA website is going to be able to take care of all the details that we do at SRSW, but there's a lot of information on RSW that should be in a CARD maintained website, and then perhaps migrated to an EPA website. So I guess that's about all I have. I had some other displays pulled up here. Let me step through them and see if there's anything that jumps out at me, since I did prepare an outline for this. Oh, this is the fourth quarterly report that Dan mentioned, and these are the dates on the fourth quarterly report relating to those new wells and borings and things. And here's what's scheduled for the next quarter. And I think Dan went through a lot of these. So one of the things that we've never really done as a group, and maybe it shouldn't be done as a group, maybe it should be done just by some volunteers up here, 3 or 4 volunteers, is to go through all of these quarterly reports over the years and look at what's anticipated for the next quarter, and look at that next quarterly report and kind of evaluate how those things proceeded. Were they done on time? Were they just ignored? I don't think we have any reports from EGLE to that effect. Dan, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but the whole idea of having a quarterly report is to say, here's what we've done, here's what we're going to do next. But I'm not sure anybody actually goes through and reviews those to see if progress is made.
I just want to make one comment on that, what you have up on the screen anticipated. Yes, going through and saying, okay, this is what they are proposing for the next quarter. This is not a schedule. This is, it's not in, we rarely have schedules that we can make them, at least currently, make them adhere to. So this is just, they're just saying, hey, this is what we are planning on doing. it is not a requirement that they get that done. You know, so
Oh,
if,
sure.
you know,
I know.
so I just wanted to make sure people understood that these quarterly reports, this is just anticipate, this is what we're planning to do. And you may have been done by the next quarter, you may not. So it's not a like example, a legal requirement.
Oh, sure. But it's kind of, you kind of nice to know how they did over the years with the different companies to be in charge. What else have I got here? I got, well, these are the letters that you, I'll be downloading these and putting them on the card SRSW archive, requesting the what you mentioned earlier, Dan.
Yeah, this is a request for information letters that are allowed or identified in Part 201 that we can. It's the first letter that goes out.
And this is the EGLE mapping using Rockworks modeling. And I think the data that's in here is through
2020. We have
some
just
of it, I
started
think,
the
is through
process.
2020.
We have just started the process of, we will be updating the information with 2021 information in the first part of 2000, you know, this year. We got all the data in, and so we will be working with Manick and Smith, the subcontractor that's helping us with the Rockworks model, to update that, and then we will generate new figures, new information, and update the GIS web map, which you can go in and grab stuff off of there as a user, as a stakeholder, update that with 2021 data.
Right. Yeah, there's some, you know, I've done the compares and seen which of the wells have had new XYs and things like that.
Right.
And anticipate that any sampling that the EGLE contracts with the county to do will be updated along with the other data. What about the Scio Townships data, Scio Townships 522 data?
Again, I would
Will those-
anticipate that gets eventually included. Again, it's you know, what we have is not electronic stuff, so we have to go in and get it into an electronic format to get it into the required format to basically the electronic data deliverable that can be used by the GIS webpage to import data.
Right. I mean, you kind of do that now with the monthly submittals from Gelman.
I use
They're in a
that.
certain
What they
format.
submit to me is I put it into the access database, my access database, and that's what is utilized by Rockworks. I have the full year in there now through December, and so they will now be taking that and getting electronic versions off of spreadsheets in there to import into the GIS. And again, I
That's
am
what I
not
kinda figured.
a GIS person, so I
kinda
may be
figured that.
describing it a little roughly. So
No, but I figured that there'd be like a spreadsheet input to the Rockworks database.
Yep.
And it occurred to me that format could be used to import the Scio's data. If Scio presented the data in that form, it would save you a step.
yes, I mean, right now I have to put it in more individually.
Right. So if they did it, because there's going to be ample data, it's going to be maybe 100 data points for 2021 through 2022. If they formatted that as the EGLE formatted monthly database from Gelman, that would make it easier for EGLE to import and show that data in the Rockworks modeling.
Absolutely, but they would then have to, in their subcontract or their lab, they would have to identify that electronic data data deliverable format to them, and so
right,
you know, they didn't get it
And,
electronically. They just
along
got a
those
PDF.
lines. Yeah, well, that takes care of the sample, the data samples themselves, but the well designations would have to be also submitted in a similar way. You know, what are the
Yeah.
what homeowner wells are these with the addresses?
And
are
how
standard
we have been doing it
addresses.
is based on the address. The
Right.
address
And I
is
think that's a
utilized
good
as
way
the
to do it, as
location.
long as the addresses are consistent. You know, the street names should be consistent. Otherwise, doing that is very good. Yes.
Right, and our database, street names,
Yeah.
it's not consistent because it had done so many, we've used that for so many years. People put it in, like, for example, with the word drive as drive or DR
I know.
as
I know. I
drive,
know.
and so, yeah.
Believe
it-
me, Dan, I had the same problem when we did tax billing and utility
Yeah,
billing for
so,
dozens of
there it
communities.
is, and have already thought about that since we got the new web GIS. We are already thinking forward of, okay, let's start utilizing that as the main, because that's really where people can get the most information. People don't have access to, don't have, the access, Microsoft access to be able to use the Access database that I post. So this is where it's interactive, and this is where we're going to start putting the information in this format, so it can easily be put into the GIS map.
Right. And by using the US Post Office naming conventions that the local governments use, then it's going to be easier to match that up with existing local government databases. So thank you on that. I think that's pretty much everything I have here. Let me take one more look here. Any change on the revision to EGLE's Gelman database? Anything?
No, it's still it's still going to be done, Roger. But again, it's not, it's still moving forward, but baby steps kind of that way. And we just haven't got all together, the whole team, to see what the required, changes. But I've alluded to some of the ones in past meetings that are coming up. One of, just to point out some information, we also have a problem as we migrate to different platforms on some of the, some of the data is, or files are so huge, big, that they have to figure out a way to have historical data. It may not be able to be as convenient. You may have to go to another platform for historical data. I'm not describing it correctly or good, but that's some of the problems we're coming up with.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah. And having the old URL that was stored someplace else, say just go to this link, and if the resolution of that link changed, you might have pages that are no longer directly available. You have to go to an index to get to them.
So
but there might be on your team to evaluate that website change. You might want to participate in this card subgroup to talk about a card website for Gelman, because there might be some overlap there. And I appreciate if
I'll make it
somebody
aware
on
to the
your
team, to my contact about, the internal,
And
because they have
I would
other
ask people that-
requirements. The state webpage, they have to be consistent with the state requirements for a web page.
Oh, sure.
That's way outside
Absolutely.
of my knowledge. So.
Yeah, but just in terms of content ideas and how to break it up, I think there's the users of the website need to be consulted, basically. Along those lines, is there anybody on the screen here on this meeting that wants to be part of the review for a card website? Please put something in the chat now or email Beth or me and let me know that you want to be on that subcommittee, and we'll start thinking about how to do that. All right, I'm going to go back to the agenda.
So with that, item 6 is non-agenda items. Does anybody have anything they want to bring up that we haven't covered so far in the agenda? Well, that was easy enough. So then at this point, I'd like to remind you that the next meeting is Tuesday, March 1st, and that'll be a quarterly meeting at 10 a.m. I look forward to seeing all of you. I really want to thank everybody that attends the meetings, and especially those who participate. And thank you, Dan, for being so informative on behalf of the state.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Well, we should
Thank
be dug
you,
out.
Jack. Thank
We
you,
should be dug out
Roger.
by March 1st, right?
Yeah.
Everyone be safe.
Everybody stay safe the next couple days.
Stay home.
Don't shovel too hard.
I'm
Right.
gonna get the old John Deere going again.
Yeah.
Remember to buy beer before it's too late.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, bye, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
If anybody wants to stay on the chat, I'll stay on for a bit.